Patriots, a battle is raging right now at the highest court in our land, and what happens next could change the very fabric of presidential authority forever. The Supreme Court has done something they haven't done in decades, called an emergency session in May. But why now? What's so urgent that it couldn't wait until October? Well, tonight we reveal what's really behind this extraordinary move and why a single judge in Maryland might hold more power than the President of the United States. Our White House correspondent, Thomas McCullagh, has all the details that will leave you questioning everything. So don't go anywhere. Now, with chronic pain from fighting legal battles, like many attorneys and judges dealing with intense court schedules, joint pain and inflammation can be debilitating, and that's where Dr. Josh's revolutionary turmeric formula comes in. This groundbreaking discovery is 200 times more powerful than standard turmeric, working to reduce inflammation naturally. Before reaching for those painkillers during your next legal marathon, try this remarkable solution. It's helping legal professionals nationwide stay focused and pain-free during lengthy court sessions. Visit goldenrevive.com/NN to discover how this breakthrough formula can help you too. It's linked below. Okay, let's get right into it. We have the latest news from our reporter, Thomas McCullagh, at the White House. And this is about the Supreme Court showdown. Donald Trump battling the deep state judges, trying to protect invasion loophole. Listen.
Or any of the spending.
Hey guys, this is Tom McCullagh reporting from the White House News Network. And guys, today's a big day for America. President Trump is fighting hard to fix a broken system, even when he's in the Middle East. And the Supreme Court is hearing oral arguments about his bold move to end birthright citizenship. This is about taking our country back from those who exploit our laws, and Trump is not backing down in typical Trump fashion. So today, the Supreme Court kicked off oral arguments this morning to decide if federal judges can block Trump's plan with nationwide injunctions. According to reports, this could impact over 150,000 kids each year if Trump's order stands. Kids born to people who, and let's be honest, shouldn't be gaming our system in the first place. The injustices are debating whether one judge in some random district can stop a president from protecting our borders. It's a disgrace that this is even a question. He is the commander-in-chief, after all, and the chief executive. So let's take a look what's happening at the Supreme Court right now. I have a clip that covers the heated arguments as the justices tackle Trump's push to end birthright citizenship. Let's check this out.
It's a very fascinating case that's going to be heard, because while the birthright citizenship issue is the vehicle that's getting there, what's at play is really whether or not these judges, of which there are hundreds around the country, a judge in Kansas could affect the lives of a bunch of people in Massachusetts or anywhere else in the country. How do you see this playing out?
Exactly right, Griff. This is about who controls all those, and there's about 675 federal trial judges spread out all over the country. And some of them have been bringing the federal government, bringing President Trump's agenda to a screeching halt, even though they don't have anybody, say, who works for the government or any of the illegal aliens or any of the spending in their own courtrooms. And so what's going on here, I think it's important to understand, is that the Supreme Court is already signaling that they're very sympathetic to the Trump administration. The Supreme Court scheduled oral argument for May 15th. It never hears cases in May. Usually they'd be done their business and they'd be sending out opinions by now. They've called basically a special session in order to hear President Trump's claims that there should not be unlimited nationwide injunctions, but that they should be under the control of the Supreme Court. Whether you agree or disagree with President Trump's order on birthright citizenship, they may not even get to the question, because the key thing here is for the Supreme Court to put an end to these 675 trial judges who all think they can run foreign policy, spending, and hiring throughout the federal government.
Now, earlier today, President Trump took to Truth Social with a fiery post, and he's absolutely right. He said birthright citizenship was meant for the babies of slaves after the Civil War, not for people sneaking across our borders to scam us. Trump pointed out the Civil War ended in 1865, and the law came just a year later in 1866. It's simple history, guys. He's calling out the drug cartels who love this loophole, and he's begging the Supreme Court to see the truth. America is the only country dumb enough to let this happen, and Trump has had enough. And I hope you guys have too. And we're here with you, Mr. President. keep fighting for us, because this is all stuff that needed to change. And this is it for now for me from the White House. Tom McCullagh with the Next News Network. God bless.
Thank you for that report, Tom. Let's dive a little deeper now. The deep state judges trying to block Trump from saving America. Supreme Court finally fighting back against rogue judges who've been running a shadow government. This is the battle for our republic. Let's dive in. The globalist judge Cabal has been sabotaging Trump since day one. 675 unelected tyrants with black robes stopping our elected president. These district dictators think they can rule from their courtroom kingdoms. The system is rigged. Let's check in with Charlie Kirk's take.
Maryland nationwide injunctions mean that one lone federal judge or a small group of them can entirely block everything the Trump administration wants to do, even if their legal pretext is somewhat flimsy. And that means if something happens in Maryland, they're not just issuing an injunction of the Maryland jurisdiction. All of America must stop the implementation of said law because of what happens in Maryland. It's a nationwide injunction for something where the violation or the thing in question is happening locally. You see, they could create a new parallel court system whose only purpose is handling requests for nationwide injunctions. Nationwide injunctions mean that one lone...
Not going to happen. There were 6 nationwide injunctions under Bush, 12 under Obama, but a staggering 64 under Trump's first term, now on pace for even more. It's not a coincidence. It's coordinated judicial warfare against America first.
Just one state, or the matter of nationwide injunctions. Pretty much instantly after the Trump executive order, a district court judge issued a nationwide injunction. That's where a single district court judge, whose jurisdiction is just one state or even part of one state, blocks a law or order from being implemented nationwide. You see, nationwide injunctions used to be rare. There were just 6 of them under George W. Bush's term. There were 12 of them during Obama's presidency, but there were 64 of them in Trump's first term. And at this current pace, he might top that figure in the first year of his second term.
Birth tourism is real. Foreign nations sending pregnant women to exploit our laws to give birth, go back to China, then return years later claiming citizenship. The 14th Amendment was for slaves, not foreign invaders. Let's check in with the Washington Journal's take.
Still, there is a birth tourism industry where people will pay to come to our shores in their 7th or 8th month of pregnancy when it's still relatively safe to travel, and they will then stay in hospitals until they give birth, and they will go back into their countries. And there are certainly evidence out there that there are some countries, surprised me if it was China, that are in fact sending people here to give birth so that at some point they can take those children who have been living back in China for many, many years and bring them back to the United States, and then claim that that the people that are coming back to the United States are in fact U.S. citizens by dint of the fact that they were born on our shores. I believe it is exactly abuses like that, among many, that led President Trump to enter the executive order that he did.
All right, that's John Mel.
Let's keep going. Trump's executive order would end this abuse, but activist judges have blocked it nationwide. One judge in Maryland can stop what voters in all 50 states demanded. It's not democracy, it's judicial tyranny.
On hold, the Supreme Court is hearing arguments over nationwide injunctions blocking President Trump's executive order ending birthright citizenship. 3 federal courts have kept the federal appeals courts, that is, have kept the order on hold, finding it very likely unconstitutional. But President Trump argues the lower courts exceeded their authority. Now he's asking the Supreme Court to lift the injunctions or at least allow the administration to start planning for the change.
Traitors outside of the Supreme Court speaking Spanish while protesting border security. They're chanting down with deportation right in front of the highest court of the land.
We're outside the Supreme Court this morning as the left's anti-Trump protesters are now protesting Trump for his secure border policies. As you can hear behind me, the crowd is chanting, "Down, down with deportation, up, up with liberation." The same have been literally chanting things in Spanish all morning, which is kind of annoying considering we're outside the United States Supreme Court. Stay tuned to Laura Loomer's X account for more exclusive footage of this crazy open borders anti-Trump protest at Scotty's.
I wonder how many of them are illegal. The 14th Amendment was twisted and perverted by the globalists, meant to free slaves after the Civil War, not for illegal aliens sneaking across the border. Let's check back in with Charlie Kirk.
This concerns birthright citizenship. One of the first orders of the Trump administration was an announcement that this administration is henceforth reinterpreting the meaning of the 14th Amendment. The 14th Amendment dates back to the end of the Civil War. Its first clause reads, quote, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. Now, the Trump administration announced that from now on, the children of illegal immigrants, tourists, and temporary guest workers are not automatic U.S. citizens. That order didn't take effect, though, and that's the other issue being debated today.
Trump administration correctly argues these nationwide injunctions are a constitutional crisis. They prevent the percolation of novel legal questions and encourage rampant forum shopping. The left shops for sympathetic judges. Here's more.
So far, the Trump administration's attorney has argued the injunctions are a bipartisan problem that has spanned the last 5 presidential administrations.
Universal injunctions exceed the judicial power granted in Article 3, which exists only to address the injury to the complaining party. They transgress the traditional bounds of equitable authority, and they create a host of practical problems. Such injunctions prevent the percolation of novel and difficult legal questions. They encourage rampant forum shopping. They require judges to make rushed, high-stakes, low-information decisions. They create what Justice Powell described as repeated and essentially head-on confrontations between the life-tenured and representative branches of government. And they disrupt the Constitution's careful balancing of the separation of powers.
So far, the Trump administration...
Sotomayor exposing her radical agenda with gun confiscation hypothetical. She's telegraphing the left's plan to take your guns while pretending to defend judicial power.
Here is Selena, what stands out to you from questioning so far? We never know what justices are thinking, but sometimes it's interesting to hear the questions they choose to ask.
Yeah, Diane, well, as you were just outlining, I mean, one of the key questions here is, can an individual federal judge then block a presidential policy nationwide? And the administration here is arguing that the ability to do so creates an unfair playing field, saying, oh, this forces the government to win everywhere while the plaintiffs can win anywhere. Now, Justice Sotomayor had very skeptical response. She had a tough line of questioning. She said that the administration's argument, quote, makes no sense whatsoever, saying that this would not only limit the ability of federal courts, but also the Supreme Court to issue nationwide relief. She also made an interesting analogy, saying what would happen if a new president issued an executive order to take away everyone's guns? She asked if in that case, the courts would have to sit back and wait for individuals to sue one by one to challenge the constitutionality of such an order. Now, the administration is also arguing that the 14th Amendment's provision of birthright citizenship at the time of its passage was meant for freed slaves. It was not meant to apply to immigrants to the United States.
Let's keep going. We survived until the 1960s without nationwide injunctions. They exploded in 2007 when the Ninth Circuit started using them for environmental claims. That's the climate cult's gift to the deep state.
Injunctions used.
We believe that the best reading of that is what you said in Trump against Hawaii, which is that Wirtz in 1963 was really the first universal injunction. There's a dispute about Perkins against Lucas Oil going back to 1940. And of course, we point to the court's opinion that reversed that universal injunction issued by the D.C. Circuit and said it's profoundly wrong. Now, if you look at the cases that the either party cite, you see a common theme. The cases that we cite, like National Treasury's Employment Union, Perkins against Lucas Oil, Frothingham and Massachusetts against Mellon, going back to Scott against Donald, and all of those are cases where the court considered and addressed the sort of universal, in that case, statewide issue of provision of injunctive relief. So when the court has considered and addressed this, it has consistently said you have to limit the remedy to the plaintiffs who appearing in court and complaining of that remedy.
So we survived until the 1960s without universal injunctions.
That's exactly correct. And in fact, those were very limited, very rare, even in the 1960s. It really exploded in 2007 in our cert petition in Summers against Earth Island Institute. We pointed out that the Ninth Circuit had started doing this in a whole bunch of cases involving environmental claims.
Environmental claims. Congress could fix this immediately, but they're sitting on their tails. We control Congress. What are they doing all day? Let's check in with Charlie.
And I'm glad there's a lot they could do. There's a lot of good ideas out there, but they might not be necessary. Because an obvious question is this, and this is the fundamental question, and I'm glad we're actually getting this out of the way in the first 6 months of the Trump administration. And I'm glad we're getting it done quick. It's very important. The question is this. If a district court judge's jurisdiction is only over his or her own district, how can they have the power to issue a nationwide order? Arguably, they shouldn't. And that's what the Supreme Court just had in oral arguments today. And of course, we should be clear, Congress could fix this. We control Congress, and we should not let Republicans off the hook. What are they doing all day long? Hello, Congress, get off your tail. Fix this. There's a lot they...
So, the battle is on. This is the wrap-up tweet, as we call it. The battle is on. One lone judge should not have power to block the president. This case will determine if we are a republic or a judicial dictatorship. Stay tuned for massive revelations and follow the Next News Network for the truth they don't want you to hear. There's yours truly at the White House press room. So there you have it. The constitutional crisis is unfolding right before our eyes. But here's what we need to ask ourselves. Why are these activist judges so desperate to maintain their unprecedented power over presidential decisions? What do they fear about turning this authority to where the Constitution intended? Drop your thoughts in the comments below because we want to hear your take on this historic Supreme Court battle. And check out our official Next News Network merchandise at shop.nextnewsnetwork.com and stand with the Constitution.